Welcome back to GamesRadar. I'm Sam Loveridge and I'm here with Leon Hurley to talk about the ending of God of War. Safe to say this is going to be spoiler central, so if you haven't finished the game and care about spoilers, please click away now. Click away. Seriously, click away.
So many spoilers.
So many spoilers. So many spoilers. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about the Jotunheim panel at the end of the game.
Let's spoil everything. Yes,
Woo!
so it turns out in the end that the whole sort of reason that Faye had asked them to go to the highest peak was to go to Jotunheim, and when you get there, you see this big mural of showing Faye meeting the giants, and then it turns out it's Atreus, and there's a bit where Atreus goes like this
story, right?
Yeah, Atreus goes, "This is a story about us," and Kratos says, "No, this is your story." And it shows like everything that happened, like them fighting Balder. But then the last panel, which I genuinely don't know what it means. It shows like Atreus like on the floor cradling kind of Kratos, and then some kind of snaky Brady pretzel thing like going from one mouth to the other. And we know Atreus has got this gift for languages, but I don't really know, like, I mean, because it's coming out of his mouth, but you don't know whether he's healing God of War, healing Kratos, or like taking something from him or communicating in some way. It's very...
Because I took it to mean, because I like the fact that Atreus hasn't seen it, like it's behind that curtain, and Kratos sort of lifts it quietly
and they
just to have a look at it, but it looked to me like Kratos was dead. Yeah. But... I mean, who knows?
They make a lot of references as well about like father killing son, because like they have that mission, don't you, where you find the spirit who's killed over the tomb, and Atreus really dwells on this idea of like, why would a father kill his son?
Well, and also then like when he sees the vision of Kratos killing Zeus,
Kratos says, "I killed my own father," and like they reference this like father and son sort of patricide thing, like killing several times, and then you see this panel, and you're not sure, like Kratos is on the floor. He might already be dead. Atreus / Loki might be like drawing something out of him. You don't really know what's going on there. But yeah, they've made a meal of this father-son murder thing. So it feels like it's obviously very significant, because the panel blows away, a little bit of fabric blows away, and you see this thing, and like Kratos seems to look at it and know it's an ending. Like it feels like he's looks at it and knows that's the end. Yeah. For him,
there's definitely a sense of like impending doom when he looks at it.
Yes, yeah.
And it's interesting that Faye knew that whatever this is going to happen was going to happen all along.
Well, this is the giant thing, isn't it? They have a gift of prophecy and a gift of the future, so that's why she told them to go to the highest peak. She didn't tell them to go to Jotunheim, because like...
Yeah, because that would be spoilers, like spoiling their own story.
In theory, if someone hadn't gone, "Oh yeah, by the way, the highest peak in the realm is not that mountain, it's Jotunheim,"
they would have scattered her in the mountain, and that
gone
would
home, and that would have been it. Yeah, it would have been a very short game, and
good on Mimir.
Been a nice walking simulator, and it'd be done. Yeah, but there's so many questions there as well. Like, why Faye? What happened to her? We don't know what happened to her. Like, why she died. She obviously, I think, died in a non-confrontational way, because otherwise Kratos would have been out for someone's blood.
Revenge.
It only just happened, obviously, because the body's there, so like it seems like she just died of natural causes, although Mimir does at one point. They find a giant shrine, and I forget which one it is, but Atreus says something about like, can giants die of old age, and Mimir is a bit like, I think so. It's not common. So whatever happened to Faye, like, giants don't generally just die of old age or just die of natural causes.
Yeah, because all the other giants have gone because they've been wiped out.
They've all been killed or sort of tracked down in some way. Like, horrible things have happened to them generally. I mean,
the
you've got
gods
Thalma.
aren't a big fan of giants, are they?
No, yeah, I mean they have a war, because the giants are sort of essentially what the gods came from, but the gods kind of took over. And the whole thing driving the game is that Odin wanted like the giant's gift of prophecy to help with Ragnarok, which by the end of the game is imminent because of your favourite word,
Fimbulwinter.
Fimbulwinter, yeah.
Fimbulwinter.
Yeah, so Fimbulwinter is, as you said, is this winter that precedes Ragnarok.
Yeah, and when you finish the game, before you head home, and if you haven't head home yet, I would definitely recommend doing it.
Yes, if you haven't gone home, stop. Yeah. If you think you've seen the credits when you're leaving Jotunheim,
yeah, you haven't. There's
stop,
more.
Go home, and then come back.
Yeah. So they make a big point of making Sindri and Brock talk about the fact that they can feel Fimbulwinter coming, and and Sindri's like, yeah, whatever, and Brock's like, I can feel it coming. And then when you do go home, it's you go to sleep, and then you wake up and it's been several years later, and Fimbulwinter's happened, and darling Thor rocks up, and like the mythology or Norse mythology says that Fimbulwinter, I can't say it, Fimbulwinter lasts for 3 years, which would be several years, as the game suggests.
It clearly, like in a not, well, I say clearly, it clearly in a not so obvious way says Fimbulwinter's here. You got the snow when you leave, like it's another stage of like world change. It's snowing and there's a bit more ice, so you're in this Fimbulwinter thing. And it says several years later, that's when Ragnarok will happen. And Thor turns up, and this ties into like my favorite theory that you read a few shrines and they talk about Thor, and they point out that him and the World Serpent have a fight in Ragnarok, and the fight was so severe that the World Serpent actually got knocked back in time. When Mimir is sort of talking about this, like Kratos like scoffs quite sort of audibly at it, but you see a couple of times when he eats the statue, World Serpent eats Thor's statue, and Mimir's going, yeah, they don't have a great relationship, or they won't anyway. And there's this whole sense of like time kind of being a bit skew-if, because the World Serpent is essentially, he's there to fight at Ragnarok, but he's there because he did fight at Ragnarok and got sent back into the past. Because
it's very confusing.
But this ties into Tyr's vault, where you see Tyr, and Tyr is this beloved god of war who always sought peace. And you see pictures of like him in Scandinavia, in China, in Egypt, in Mayan sort of South American cultures, and this idea that he traveled the world to try and sort of learn new things. You get a reference at one point where Atreus says, but there are some good gods, because Kratos obviously hates all gods. He goes, and Atreus says, there are some good gods because Tyr was good and you're good.
He's so wrong.
But what I think happens is that Kratos is Tyr, and Thor has turned up several years later. Fimbulwinter, Ragnarok is coming. Thor hasn't turned up to fight after Kratos has killed Magini and Modi. Is it the sons?
Yeah.
So I don't think Thor is there to have a fight. I think Thor is there to ask Kratos to help him with Ragnarok. There'll be a massive great fight. You'll get like Ragnarok will be kind of DLC or like another part of the game, and then
God of War 2
or God of War 2 maybe,
it's called, yeah.
But then Kratos will get knocked back in time with the World Snake to the beginning of creation, whatever, and then wait it out until catches up with present time, and he will be Tyr.
Yeah.
As a much older, much wiser man, and because
he's good
because he's on this journey. He's trying to he's accepted that in the past all his anger, all his rage was his own fault, and he's always blaming people, and he's trying to be better. He keeps saying, like, he keeps grabbing Atreus and being like, be better, but saying like, be better. We have to be better, and he's on this journey of trying to be better. So if he does get knocked back in time with the World Serpent during Ragnarok, he'll have thousands of years to try and be better, and he could be the wise and wonderful Tyr that everyone adores when he turns up. And it's
interesting, you never see Tyr or find out what happened to Tyr.
And they keep mentioning as well how Tyr had a special relationship with the giants. Like he was given
it would help if your son was at least half a giant.
Yeah, like he has the world travel key, the realm travel key that they used to get to Jotunheim. He has this special bond with the giants that would make sense if you were the father of the last giant, which is essentially what Atreus is. Well, for the ones, we don't know where the other giants are, but Atreus is the last known giant when God of War ends.
Apart from the snake, obviously, because he's a giant as well.
Well, he's just a big snake. The giant, because I remember they pointed out, a giant isn't just like a big person. A giant is essentially another kind of god, but people have just sort of forgotten over time that you could be a normal-sized person and still be a giant.
I do like that joke when they're walking through the tunnel and Kratos says, these tunnels don't seem big enough for giants, and like Atreus has to tell him off and say, that's not right, father. Yep. Anyway, let's talk about Atreus, or in his true form, what his mother would have called him, Loki.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Loki, as we know him from Marvel and Norse mythology, is traditionally a trickster god.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we haven't really seen this from Atreus in God of War. He's much more to do with languages and hearing voices in his head. There are now lots of questions around what kind of god he'll be, either in DLC or in the next game.
Yeah. It's he's interesting now because he's both a god. I mean, he's a mortal, a god, and a giant, sort of all together, which is an interesting combination. But I mean, Loki traditionally was, his trickster god role. He was a shape changer. That was his thing. He would change into animals to do stuff, which is why it's quite funny when he goes like, "Can I change into a wolf?"
Which would literally be my first thing if I was a god.
Yeah, he changed into flies and fleas and things to achieve different goals. Like he is a shape shifting god traditionally. But yeah, we've seen this languages thing. the voices, like he keeps hearing these voices. Like there's one point where they're crying out. This never explained, but it's obviously
in Alfheim it's a big story point.
Yeah, like he collapses, doesn't he? And he's like it hurts sort of thing.
Yeah,
and like
sounds like they're in pain or
yeah. So it's clearly leading up to something, or it's setting the groundwork for something, because it's like Chekhov's gun. You don't like have that stuff happening unless it means something later on.
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't mean anything in this game.
No. So
it's still a question that's like left hanging in the air for whatever comes next.
And it could be, if Ragnarok is the thing around the corner, he could be sort of hearing all this war happening like very, very imminently, and but because he doesn't understand he's a god yet, he doesn't really understand his powers, he's not really processing it right. He's just hearing all these voices but not understanding that this is an ability he has as a giant.
Well, it's interesting that because I guess it could be the prophecy that he's hearing and not understanding that. I never thought about it like that.
But also we don't know what his god sort of half is. I mean, Kratos is a demigod. He was born of a mortal via Zeus.
So he's like a quarter god?
Half god, I guess. I mean, Zeus.
No, Atreus.
Well, I mean, technically,
if
Kratos is essentially his mother was a mortal, his father was a god, but Atreus is so Kratos is like half god, half mortal, and then Atreus is half god, half mortal, all giant.
Who knows?
But yeah, I mean,
that's a question for a family tree expert, I swear.
Yeah, and there's probably like a mythologist somewhere like having a minor breakdown. Going, you can't do that. But yeah, so he's God of War's always been quite plays it quite loose with who the gods are and what they do. In the previous games, you'd have like a Hermes and Athena and the Titans, and they were vaguely, roughly inspired by what they were meant to be. Like, for example, Balder being hurt by the mistletoe. That's what happened in classic mythology. Was in the original mythology, Freya, the mother, when he starts having dreams about his death, she goes around and essentially asks everything in the world like to promise not to kill him. Like, I don't know quite how that works, but
please, swords, don't kill my boy.
That was essentially kind of how it worked. And what happened then was all the gods found it was hilarious. They could throw whatever they liked at Balder and it wouldn't kill him, until Loki kills him by getting a blind god to throw a mistletoe spear, because he finds out mistletoe is the one thing that's not part of the deal. Gives this mistletoe spear to someone who wants to join in, throws the spear, and it kills Balder. So it ties in with sort of the normal
not
mythology.
Quite a spear, but definitely mistletoe and Loki, Atreus killing him.
Yeah, because it's like when Balder punches him and Kratos has a panic. It's not my blood. Yeah, but then Balder is like kind of quite happy that he can feel something, and he's a really interesting character because he's like, you have that flashback in Helheim where he's like sort of begging his mother to give him like feeling back because he'd rather die than not have any feeling, and he's an interestingly tortured sort of villain. Like there's layers to him because he's basically had everything taken away from him. He just exists without sensation, like, or without feeling, which is like a kind of
horrendous.
Yeah, it must be awful.
And speaking of Freya, I mean, one of my big questions about it is where does she go? Obviously, she's pretty narked that you've killed a boy, and she's already lost one.
I mean, I wonder if she's off to see Odin, because she is bound by post like divorce when she sort of leaves Odin. He uses, because he got all her magic. He wanted all her magic and all her abilities for his own gains, and he used that against her. So she's now bound to not be able to leave Midgard. So she has to be in Midgard somewhere.
Yeah.
And
but
also,
she's not at home. You go back to her home, and the turtle's gone to sleep. Her house disappeared. She's not there, and she promises that she's going to rain down hell on you.
Every kind of horrible thing over. But she is bound by Odin's magic to be unable to hurt anyone by sword or spell. Yeah. Which is why in the final boss fight you can see like all these vines are like holding Balder and Atreus back, and the giant's hand is trying to separate them. She can't
actually hurt you.
She never physically hurts you. She's just trying to pull you apart. And I forgot about the magic when I played the boss battle, because I was just like, oh, she's good. She's just trying to not hurt anyone, but she can't. Like, she would if she could. I think she would have killed.
She would have killed Kratos.
Yeah, she would have just blinked him out of existence. But she's not allowed to do that. So she's somewhere in Midgard. Maybe she's trying to seek out Odin's help, or maybe she's going to Odin to offer her help in return for like being freed to go and kill Kratos, because Kratos has killed Atreus killed one god, but he's killed one of Thor's sons. Atreus has done the other. Yeah. There's a massive pain in Odin's side, because all Odin wants is prophecy to help him defeat or win Ragnarok, and Kratos has just come in and Spartaned up the place and caused all these problems.
Well, so let us know if you have any questions about the God of War ending. I'm sure you do. Hit us up in the comments below, hit the buttons on the left for more content from us, and don't forget to hit that big button in the middle for more news, reviews, previews, and more from us here at GamesRadar Plus.